Welcome, everybody. I am Dave from the Disc Golf Dyers Guild, and we have Jory and Eagle McMahon joining us for a live die session today. So, uh, if you guys want to give a quick hello and intro.
Eagle, go first, man.
Oh, thank you. What's up, everybody? It's an honor to be on this podcast. I hear it's the first time they've had a player on their show, and I'm honored to be the first because I'm a huge advocate of throwing dyed plastic. I think it gives it a lot more personality, and I genuinely believe that having a beautiful disc shaves strokes off your score. So any way you can express yourself, I am 100% down for, and I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. And Jory is going to be dyeing a disc live that Eagle will be bagging. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm Jory. I dye discs. Hi, I make them fun, like Eagle says to throw them and whatnot.
So
But I always do say dye discs ace better. So Eagle, when you get these, just be careful. Like it's a lot of power, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So
I'm
it'll
down.
be good.
I'm in an ace drought right now, so any help I can get, I'll take it. You're not
Dude,
in an ace drought, Jory.
dude, right here. This is the one, man.
I
Nailed
saw
it.
I saw that video you sent me, and I was like mind blown. I think you literally might be the first person to ace with one of those envies, because I think you had your hands on that one a little bit before the actual release. So
Yeah,
you very well could be.
Yeah, the package got here while I was on vacation, and I got back and opened it up and was like, dude, this thing feels so good. Got to go throw it. And sometimes you bring the camera out, and it happens. So it was pretty rad. I'm stoked.
and your reaction was so genuine too. That was awesome.
It was beautiful. I was stoked to see it.
So, Eagle, how did you get connected with Jory to dye some of your discs, and what's the story behind that?
Well, I met Jory, gosh, I think it was like 2016. Just like we were all you used to live in Utah, right?
Yep, Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City, and I was with Eric Oakley, Tina, and our friend Chris Telesbo. We were eating at a vegan diner, and I remember they
Yep.
invited Jory over. So I remember he's hanging out. I was on like Instagram or Facebook Live at the time. I think if you went back in the archives far enough, you could actually probably find that video. But met Jory there. But after that, I think we messaged back and forth a little bit here and there. But then he took off with his dyeing career, and it grabbed my attention. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is insane. The colors, it's just, I think there's some of the most beautiful dyes I've ever seen. So like I remember he posted Marco from One Piece, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like all the colors completely popped, and I was like just baffled how amazing it looked. Oh my, see, it's insane. Oh, this is the first time I'm seeing
In
it.
in progress, right? So this is what we're gonna work on a little bit tonight. I got another one I'm working on. It's the Berserk disc, and I wanted to ask you about that real quick.
I'd love to be
So
asked.
the design you sent me, it's just like black and white, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of black and white. It's gonna like the disc is gonna look mostly black. So I have it stenciled out, and I'm thinking what we do is we do a glue bed in the background and add some color to it. Not a lot. Like there's still gonna be pretty dark, like that shadowy dark look. But we just like you pick what colors you want mixed in there, and like I'll do up a glue bed right here.
Have you watched or read Berserk?
I haven't, not yet. That's so. Here's the thing: the anime dyes were requested of me. Like, hey man, can you do this? I'm like, sure. I didn't know the anime. I didn't know what One Piece was. I was like, sure, pirate dye, that's cool. And then like a few of them came in, and I was like, I need to watch this show. And I started, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in love. Like this is so great. Like I've always been a Dragon Ball Z fan,
Right.
but One Piece, I'm like, I'm in. And then the Studio
Wow.
Ghibli stuff, like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Very aesthetic. It's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I
it's
get it. Like I know like when I make these discs, oh, it's something special every time.
I'd say so. Looking at them, they're amazing. But with Berserk, so that image I gave you, there's a very like dark kind of theme, and there's this scene, this infamous scene, notorious, the uh, the eclipse, and like the theme is like a dark, like crimson red in the background. So like
Hmm.
a lot of black. I think a good theme with that would be like the character in the foreground as much black as possible, but like a dark kind of ominous crimson red in the background. I
Yep,
think would be
I've already
on the
got
money.
it, man.
Ooh,
Already
I'm
got it.
so stoked for this disc. Oh my
And
goodness.
I think what I'll do is I'll put a very fine, super dark blood red like halo around it.
Ooh,
I got room for that later.
that's
So
gonna
yeah,
be
it's good.
just absolutely on the money.
So I'm curious, Eagle, how much instruction are you giving Jory for these dies?
I this is the I sent him some images that I really liked, and I thought that it would be awesome on some discs. But other than that, he's the artist, and I want him to excel. Other than what I just told him, like for color inspiration, because originally I sent him just a black and white image. So I think I would have been cool with black and white, but I love the fact that there's going to be a little bit of color and artistic flair on it.
Nice. So, Jory, what are you going to be doing tonight specifically?
I'm gonna do up a glue bed right now. Um, get it going. We've got Eagle for about an hour, so it takes about 15-20 minutes to build up a glue bed pretty well. So I'll do that, and then I'll get started on Marco. Like, okay, so the glue bed I did on Marco, the background on this thing, Eagle, when you see it in person, you're gonna freak out because it's so good. But I'm gonna do some lotion painting on his wings because that's like if you notice, there's hardly any lines in there, and
Hmm.
the actual Marco, like there's like really soft yellows, really bright, vibrant blues, some darker blues, kind of all touching next to each other. Um, and I'm gonna go in and start building that up. It's pretty tedious work. So
I can only imagine.
lotion painting on that end.
I'm really excited to see this process because I've always just wondered like how do you get these colors to pop like they do and like get these fine lines because we were talking a little bit before I can't remember what it's blending together, but when we're doing like the sound check, I mentioned that I dyed a disc before way back in the day, and I used RIT dye and vinyl paper. Um, did the Colorado Rockies logo, and this was like when I was like 13 years old. And I remember putting it in the pot, letting it the dye absorb, and then peeling it off, and then just see how much the dye bled and how terrible it looked. So this is like a very fine, articulate process that I can only speak from pure admiration for what Jory and all the other dyers do because it's incredible.
Yes. And if you have any questions, Eagle, along the way, feel free to ask because it's a learning experience for everybody, really.
Yeah, I would say, like, how how did you guys get into dyeing and like where because someone had to be a pioneer of like creating these methods to essentially m- be pioneers within the dyeing realm because there's not that much history of people dyeing discs like to a very high in a very high level per se.
Yeah,
I think.
I was going to
Go
say,
ahead,
I
Dave.
feel like the COVID, we have a bunch of disc dyer booms after the COVID. There was obviously people before that. So I am a COVID dyer. So I started dyeing during COVID. Jory, he's been around a while, so he can give a little bit more history and background on that.
There's it's interesting because like disc dyes have always kind of been around, and I remember this one guy at our local course in Salt Lake City, Stephen Franco. He was kind of an oddball. And he always had these discs dyed with like cartoon characters, but they were really like really naughty, and so I would never bag one. But um, he would always tell me, he's like, yeah, man, get a plotter and do this and do that and like figure this out. And I'm like, dude, that's way too much. Like, so stencils and hot dipping is where I stopped. Fast forward, COVID happened. Instagram starts to blow up, and I see a couple of guys on Instagram doing some really weird stuff. And so I go down and follow the rabbit hole, and there's T Diddy, which is the difference is doing it. And old man Bob Cobb, Bobby, he's the best. He's the grandfather of modern disc dyeing. He just turned on the camera and he interviewed disc golf dyers and learned tricks and secrets and shared it with everyone. He filmed his process. He had some of us film our processes and just made these really great fun videos that were pretty easy to follow along. And then we were all able to just kind of take that info and take it all our own directions. And now people are just going wild with it. Really, very few limitations as to what can be done when dyeing a disc. There's some cool discs out there that look printed, but like it's a or that are printed, but like the ones that are dyed, I don't know, it's just a different feel
Right.
with all of that.
Yeah,
Like
and
there's like you can feel the time put into it.
in the grand scheme of things, disc dyeing as an art form is really young and new. So I'm very curious and excited to see where disc dyers take this in the future because how far we gotten so far is quite amazing.
Absolutely. And from outside looking in, just it seems like it's a really great community and people really help each other out and like share their techniques. So like it's a community within a community, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a niche within a niche. Just like
Hmm.
disc golf is a pretty tight knit community, and the dyeing community is just as tight. Um, yeah, it's very fun.
Super cool.
All right, so Jory, what are you doing now?
I'm just starting to build the glue bed, laying down my black. This is going to give me some cool um, darker lines, and the red I'm going to put kind of in between. I'm going to go a little more mild on the red to keep the dark vibe of the piece.
So yeah, what Jory
Yeah.
is doing is he's doing the clear glue bed method, where clear glue is the base or the medium that transfers the dye to the disc, and he's dropping liquid dye, which started out in powdered form, but he mixed it with acetone, and he's dropping it on top of the bed in a unique pattern.
What kind of glue are you using?
It's like clear school glue, like that they used to make slime with. This is my
Oh,
exact
okay.
brand and everything.
Okay, gotcha.
But I add a little bit of water to it to get it to my preferred consistency.
Mm,
So yeah, when we say clear glue bed, it's the bed that the dye rests on, and it's just a transfer medium. And the dye that we use is mixed with acetone, and the acetone actually evaporates, just leaving the dye sitting like a thin film on top of that glue. And when you set the disc on, it's like the glue sandwiches the dye between you know, or the disc between the dye.
Yeah, and the glue it's wet enough that it activates the dye and allows it to move into the pores of the plastic. You gotta have some sort of like liquid medium there. Shaving cream works really well, clear glue.
mm.
There's this stuff we use called Floetrol, like there's all kinds of lotion. Lotion works really well.
Right. I've heard of those techniques. Shaving cream's like one that was been popular for a long time.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure.
shaving cream is
So
like probably the easiest entry to disc dyeing because all you need is shaving cream and powder dye or liquid
Right.
dye.
so Eagle, Dave's doing something pretty awesome this year for disc dyeing. He's actually put together a team to follow along the Disc Golf Pro Tour and offer opportunities for people to dye discs on site, purchase
Wow.
kits and things like that. They'll be at every stop. How many stops?
So it's going to be at every disc pro tour event, not the majors. So I think there's 18. So yeah, the Dyers Guild will be on site teaching people how to dye discs. So Eagle, if you ever have some free time and want to learn how to dye a disc, well, more than welcome teach you how.
That sounds amazing. That's going to bring on the next generation of dyers, hopefully.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and maybe I'll even be a part of that generation. My I'll say, like, I wouldn't say, I don't think I'm the most artistic person yet. I like to have a
Yes.
growth mindset about a lot of things, and I don't like to necessarily put myself down. But my girlfriend, she's very artistic, so I know that she's expressed an interest at potentially learning how to dye a disc. So if we have time during one of the tour stops, then we might swing by and dye some of the stuff in our bag. It could be really cool.
Absolutely. And I interviewed a lot of disc dyers, and almost everyone said that they're not an artist. It doesn't, you don't have to be an artist to dye a disc. It's another creative outlet and a way to have fun.
Right, exactly. And I imagine, like, there's different ways, like in theory, like what Jory's doing right now. For you to put a unstamped disc in there, you would just get a bunch of like really cool colors,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because, like, like a Rorschach test, like, people look at it and they see different things. Like, making a glue bed. All right, here. So it's not just random colors. Like, here's one I did the other day, and
Mm,
like the details and the planning of it, and like this little swirl on the edge versus the cell shapes on the inside. Like, it's not just like like I'm able to build different structures within the die scheme. And like what I'm
right.
doing right now is I'm building a lot of detail. I'm like super saturating the colors so that we'll get the darkest black and the richest red.
Mm,
And I'm like watching how these colors interact whenever they run into each other, right? As the acetone dries and what the dye does, and how it's kind of left
mm,
behind. So it's like some people, yeah, they show up and they slap some stuff down and they throw a disc in and they're like, oh look, it's really cool, and they get lucky sometimes. And then there's like that next
yeah.
level of the intention behind it. Like, I mean, I've had days on the course where I go and I throw a disc as hard as I can and I make an impossible line and it's random and lucky. And then I have days where I throw the exact line I intend to, and one of those shots feels way better than the other.
That makes sense. A lot drawing parallels that I can completely relate to that. But like with what you're doing now, say you went in there with like a toothpick or something, could you like drag the colors around to like alter them to
That's
make a different pattern?
exactly what I'm
That's
about to do.
okay.
You nailed it, man. You nailed it.
Nice.
Yeah, there's different ways you can manipulate the bed. That's a hard word to say. You can use like a toothpick to drag it around. You can use a straw to blow it around. You can
Oh,
move the bed to swirl it around.
Fire.
oh man, getting fancy. Creme
Over the heat.
brulee.
Yep. The creme brulee.
So, Jory, why are you using a giant torch?
The giant torch helps. It kind of, well, for me, it's a texture thing. Like, I could just put the disc in here, um, as is, because the acetone evaporated. But what the torch does is it makes sure that all of the acetone is gone so that it doesn't peel off any of the vinyl or damage the surface of the disc. Then also it texturizes what dye is left. Like, I can create webbing, I can thin it out in spots. Um, the dye it's living, like it's always moving and doing something. And when you add that heat, it's kind of fun to watch and see what happens with it all.
Whoa.
Where is my? I need my cup.
The torch also pops any air bubbles that are left in there. So, if for whatever reason you don't like to have air bubbles, the air bubbles will leave like the blank spots and the dye won't take in there. So, the heat makes it pop with the air bubbles.
Yeah, a lot of people worry about air bubbles. I kind of like them, but I'm also kind of one of those dyers that someone will tell me how to do something, and I'll take that information and just kind of do it my own way. Um, and I mess things up a lot like that, but also I figure out new things that, if I just follow the instructions, I would have never or would have never figured out, I guess.
When doing a glue bed, say you're trying to dye a very specific pattern on something, would this process be the same, but you just drag the toothpick around to as close to what you believe would look good on the disc?
Yes and no. It just kind of depends. I use glue beds for accent backgrounds. So like it's more about carrying through a vibe than it is doing an exact design with the glue bed. That's really what stencils are for, is getting like, if you want a particular character or an image or a shape exactly, doing it with stencils or freehand, like another method, is probably the way to go. Glue beds are more organic in nature. I feel like there's some control, but every time I put this toothpick in to make an intentional swirl, it also pulls on the rest of the surface and pulls the rest of the swirl. So like how deep I stick the toothpick in matters, like how fast I move. All these factors come into play around like doing an intentional thing, but also making sure I don't mess up another thing that
Right.
I was working on.
Yeah,
Does
it's
that answer the question?
Oh, definitely, because I'm like looking in the background and I see the Marco disc, and
Hmm.
it, I like the fact that it's pretty organic. Just to get kind of this trippy, spacey backdrop, I think is just so mesmerizing.
And that's the feedback that I love, because I think one of the things that frustrates me as an artist is like when someone's like, "Can you put this exact image on a disc?" And I'm like, "I'm not a printer. Like,
Hmm.
I love the vibe of this image that you're providing, but I'm gonna kind of do my own thing with it." And it's
That's what
like,
stamps are for.
right, that's what stamps are for. That's what, you know, all those cool printers are for. Like, go for that if that's what you want. But if you want, like, if you're vibing with my style and what I'm putting down, then we'll talk. But
and speaking of stamps, Eagle, did you see Jory wiped your stamp off the Envy?
I
we
did.
were supposed to talk about that.
It came out. Is that the one kind of pinkish one that with the like the stained glass look that you gave it?
Yeah, it was a very light peach color of disc, very clear, and I put the hawk on there.
I like that a lot. I think I love the stamp on the Envy, but I think you made it better.
I'm gonna keep the stamp on my thrower for always and
Okay.
forever. But that one, it was clear, and I've just been on this kick with like stained glass and the hawk that I drew up. I'm like, man, I have to do this. And the whole time I filmed the process and everything, and people are pretty excited about it. So I'm glad you like it.
It, it was kind of very polarizing. Some people don't like wiping stamps, especially an Eagle stamp like that.
Hey, you still got the ghost stamp though.
Yeah, it's still like it's still in there. Every time you look at it at the angle, you're like, oh yeah, there it is. Like, and I had to go with the appropriate theme for it, right? Like bird of prey, like had to do that.
All right. I think we temporarily lost Eagle, but when he comes back, I will bring him back in. Uh, a question that people had is, what are you doing with the cup?
Oh, so every time I drag the toothpick through, there's a big glob of glue on it, and I don't like to put that glob of glue back into the dye because it moves colors into spots I don't want it to. So I drag my swirl and then I
I
roll it in
think
here.
my connection there was a blip, unfortunately.
No problem.
It's all
We
right,
got your
man.
back.
It happens to me all the time, and Dave gives me a lot of hell about it. But I live in a school bus, so
Oh,
there's
you
that.
do?
Yeah, I built a tiny home in a school bus, and
Oh, that's
my
impressive.
internet's not the best because I'm out in the woods. But
Starlink?
no, I can't quite afford Starlink just yet. One
Everybody,
day.
go support Jory. Buy his dies.
Yes.
Now, how do we scale it, Eagle? How do we scale my dies so that I can sell more of them per time that I have?
So that's also a
We
hot
need a.
topic because I feel like this is art, but a lot of dyers undercharge what their time put into some of these discs, like $45, and they have to buy the disc at, retail price. They're not making a lot of money on it, and it's hard because disc golfers can't be cheap people, and they kind of scoff at the idea of, well, I'm not going to pay like $50 for a dyed disc type thing. So, I mean, Eagle, how much would you pay for a dyed disc?
Well, you have to put in, like you said, you really have to put in perspective of like how much would you pay for a tattoo? How much would you pay for a piece of art?
Yeah.
And yeah, you can get art for cheap, but you can also pay thousands upon thousands of dollars. So like I would say there's a certain level of making it affordable, but if you make a piece that you're really proud of and it took you, I mean, I don't, Jory, what's like an average how long does it take you to create like Marco, for example?
Marco, he's probably like 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, 6 to 8 hours. Because I don't just take an image and crop it and throw it into the stencil cutter. Like I hand draw over that stencil. I pick the details I want to keep, and like I put like 2 to 3 hours in just drawing the stencil alone. Then I go from there to putting the vinyl on, weeding. That's another hour, and then glue bed. 30 minutes. Well, yeah, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then the lotion painting coming up next is like that's the that's the hard part because that can take a lot of time, a lot of iterations. So yeah, I mean we're probably looking around 6 to 8 hours with that. But if it's just time, like there's a story that I heard, and it's like Picasso. He's at a
I've heard this
restaurant, and
one.
this lady,
Mhm.
yeah, the lady's like, "You're Picasso. Draw me a picture on this napkin." And he does, and then he's like, "That'll be like $1,000." And she's like, "But it took you 5 seconds." And he's like, what took me 5 seconds has also taken a lifetime of practice.
Right.
So like when I make Marco, it's not just those 6 hours. It's every other disc I did before and every point that I learned to be able to make Marco the way that I make him. And
Exactly.
some people catch on quick. Some people that learning curve takes a while. Um, and it's just you see the detail, like you can see the effort and the experience in the detail. And I think that's what, like when we talk about putting a price on it, I want to move more away from that of like talking about how much a thing actually costs and do more of like how much meaning is within this piece. um, Talking with you tonight is actually really important to me in my process because going forward, I'm going to have a video chat with each of my customers about their pieces and ask them some questions like why this piece? Like what makes you want me to put this on a disc for you type of thing? Like what's the significance of, and if it's an anime character, like what's got you jazzed? Like I got a guy who wants me to do some Voltron stuff and I'm like, yeah man, tell me about Voltron. Like why do you want to spend, $120 on a disc and have me put a cartoon character on it? Like what motivates that? And then I get to hear a story, where it comes from for people. And that like versus, hey man, here's a picture. Can you put it on a disc? Yeah, sure, $100. Cool, bye. Like
Hmm.
The transactional aspect wears you thin, and I feel like I get a little more energized whenever I have that connection. And it also makes me want to ask you about, like, dude, your One Piece posters behind your couch, like, ah, so jealous. I love those. They're beautiful.
My whole
What,
basement's turning into a One Piece theme.
tell me about One Piece. What draws you into that?
Oh boy, this podcast might get really long. Um, um,
Pizza's gonna have to wait.
where do I start? I just say like I've been watching One Piece more or less for the past like 7 or 8 years now, which is honestly really crazy to say. But just the whole world, for those people who don't know, One Piece is based off a manga, which basically means Japanese comic book. And it's been going since 1998. And it's actually it's the best selling manga of all time in Japan. Um, and the
Whoa.
anime adaptation is now over 1,000 episodes, so it's an extremely long running show, and that can be a very daunting uh, barrier of entry for a lot of people to get into. But that said,
I'm only 20 episodes in.
only 20 episodes in.
But the live
That's
action was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. They just came out with a live action, so basically meaning they tried to recreate the story or the beginning of the story with traditional media. There's real life human actors in there post animation, and they did actually a really good job. So if you want like an entry to One Piece, it's actually a really good way to dip your toe in. But with One Piece, I just feel like essentially the main character is your typical shonen protagonist, which is kind of like your generic Goku, Naruto. Uh, it's like I want to become stronger. I want to do it all for my friends, and I want to be Hokage. I want to be insert blank. In the Luffy's case from One Piece, King of the Pirates. So
Hmm.
he acquires a crew and he sets out on the Grand Line to find the One Piece. This one guy, Gold Roger or Gold D. Roger, uh, left. He was the previous king of the pirates. He left all of his treasure in one place, and on his deathbed, his execution, he said, I left all my treasure in one place. Now you just have to find it. And that started the great pirate era. And essentially, basically, pirates from all over the world are competing to find this treasure. And the whole world, this is where One Piece shines. The whole world it takes place on is so complex and so deep. And with 1,000 episodes, you fall in love with the characters, you fall in love with the places they've been. There's so much wonder in the world. Like 1,000 episodes in, we're just starting to like get a taste of like the mysteries that Ichiro Oda, the creator, has hinted at, and it's starting to like come together, and it's just like it gets me so excited. And with 8 years of watching One Piece, it's like anytime there's like an emotional scene, like I have so much investment in these characters that I feel like
Hmm.
legitimate emotion. And that's why I'm like asking Jory to dye these characters on this disc, because like with anime in general, like anime's made me a better person, because compared to a lot of like more Western media, like cartoons generally are like, yeah, there's some like good messages in there, but a lot of it's just for like you're sitting in front of the TV watching dinner and you want a quick laugh, or it's like kind of just like whatever. It's like throw out the window type of entertainment.
Hmm.
More like Eastern, like Japanese cartoons, there's like legit meaning and like becoming a better version of yourself, becoming stronger, like very cherishing like the the bonds that you have with people. So like I can watch a One Piece episode and like get stoked to like become a better person, become a better disc golfer. And by looking at a disc like this, it reminds me of those characters. Like one of the characters that uh, Jory's going to die for me. His name is Roronoa Zoro, and he's the
Hmm.
second in command on the crew, and his goal is to be the world's greatest swordsman. and to see like his progression through over thousands of episodes, it's like it's very inspiring. And when I'm on the course and I look down and I see him, I'm gonna want to like turn it up. I want to be like Zorro. So like sparking that inspiration from a piece of art that I'm about to throw is like such a cool feeling. And I've some of my favorite discs have been dyed discs. So like any way can succeed on the course, whether it's as a lot of people know, disc golf is very mental. So if you can find that edge just from inspiration, I think that's it's amazing, and it makes disc golf more fun as well. So that's why I like One Piece.
Thank you for that. That is why I like One Piece also. um, I feel like the first episode and just Luffy and like his attitude and approach towards life, I'm like, yes, like the most gregarious human in the world, like just in love with life, and he trusts in everyone else's character so much, and it really, I think for him, like at least how far I am, like the way he trusts his crew, and like they weren't even his crew for how long, and he's like, "You're my crew," and they're like, "We're
Mm-hmm.
not your crew," and he's like, "You're my crew,"
Mm-hmm.
and like, oh, after that first season, I just want more.
And you're
Like
only 20 episodes in. Like
I'm not far in.
like the stuff that happens in the show. Oh my gosh, it's like what you said rings true 1,000%. And it's like I'm like getting emotional right now just thinking about like all the amazing moments. Um, it's pretty awesome. Like every year, I can't just watch like one episode. I it basically airs every single week, so you get a new episode each week. So
Yeah.
I'll I'll wait all year and like have like 40 episodes to watch, and I'll just like there's like a week during the year that's like it's One Piece week where I'm just fully invested. I'm just binging One Piece, and it's like it's probably my favorite time of the year, to be honest.
Nice. Yeah,
Nice.
I haven't watched it, but now you explaining it makes me want to watch it. And the story that you had behind it and why you wanted it on a disc, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Right, and the thing, and the cool thing too is the art style. Like if you to look at it as a quick glance, you're going to see all these like goofy looking characters. And initially, I was like, I don't want to watch that. That looks ridiculous. But that's its greatest strength. There's so many different character designs, and you can tell that the creator has so much fun creating these outlandish characters. But just for some reason, the way he ties it all together just makes it work so beautifully. And I feel like if you're an artist, you can only appreciate because the places he takes from are so unique. And I know from my example, it's like it's definitely made my life. I've looked at art in a very different way because of it. Like things don't have to be traditional to be cool, and the more crazy, the better, in my opinion. And that's what One Piece has taught me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you know, art is such a funny thing because we all think of like an image or maybe even a movie, but then there's like this whole other aspect of art of like how we move and like physical art and things like that. Like watching you and Simon in particular take some of the routes you do, like that takes creative mindset to like know your tool, know what disc you have, translate that to paintbrush, right? I know that if I move my paintbrush in a certain way, it's going to do a certain thing, and you know that with your discs. And so, how this goes back to One Piece, like watching the live action One Piece, the way that everyone moves, the way they walk, like there are so many little details that when you see that, you're like, it's a masterpiece.
Hmm.
And like I've watched the live action one twice already, so
Wow.
I'll say that. Yeah, I went in twice. My girlfriend, she wanted to watch it, and I was like, yeah, let's watch it together. She's like, okay, and she loves it. She's all about it. So
Nice.
And she didn't have any prior knowledge to One Piece going in.
Not One Piece, no, but she introduced me to Princess Mononoke, which
Oh,
I had died a few discs of, and I never watched it. And so we kind of started down that rabbit hole of those films. And I was like, okay, you've got to watch One Piece with me because I binge watched this, and it's totally legit, and we love it. It's so good.
that's an incredible movie, Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. Oh, I want to do the giant boar when he's like in worm form.
Oh my goodness, yeah,
Like
that would be
that
incredible.
would be the gnarliest disc ever. Like, oh,
It's pretty trippy, like some of the forest spirits there. And the thing with like Ghibli movies is the endings of them, and they're so like realistic and like not really cookie cutter endings. It's like I'm not going to spoil it, but like for example, you're not going to get this like crazy grandiose ending, but a part of it's like that's why it's beautiful,
hmm
how it all comes together. But then it's how it probably would happen in normal life. But
that's
this,
that's oh about that story. Like it's kind of sad at the end. You're like, yeah, nothing's really changed, but there was like the battle and the adventure, like going into all of it. I need to watch it again.
yeah, for the Ghibli movies, like I'd say Princess Mononoke is definitely a little bit more on the mature side of it, and that's probably one of,
Mm.
I'd say it's my second favorite Ghibli movie. I love Spirited Away. That's another amazing movie.
That one's
Um,
next on my list.
it's
Yeah,
amazing. That's I think it might be my favorite movie ever.
really. Oh, well,
Hmm.
perfect. Yeah, I might have to watch that very
My
soon then.
my girlfriend loves anything Studio Ghibli. Like our bathroom, there's Studio Ghibli pictures everywhere in there. And when we're going to bed, a lot of times she just puts the Studio Ghibli soundtrack on in the background,
Mhm.
and it's like, yeah, it's Joel Hisashi. Like he's such an amazing composer. The guy who does all the soundtracks for the movies.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I really need to watch this now.
Add it to your watch list.
I feel like I'll have plenty of episodes to keep me busy.
Yeah, you'll never ask yourself what should I watch, because you got some a bunch of movies and over 1,000 episodes to catch up on.
Jeez,
Yep,
how
1,000
long are an
episodes.
episode?
They're like
Um,
28 minutes or 24
Okay.
minutes or something like that.
24 minutes, but the bad thing I'll say about One Piece is that a lot of it, like a 24-minute episode, a lot of it they'll like recap the previous episode. So sometimes the recaps can go up to like 5 or 6 minutes. So when you cut everything down, you might only have like 17 to 19 minutes of actual One Piece to be
hmm
watching.
Nice. So, Jory, what are you doing now?
Right now, I'm doing some spot lotion painting for colors that I know are going to be like full solid based off the reference. Over here, I have the image and the actual colors of Marco. Can you see those?
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so I kind of zoom in on little spots, and then I take my fine point um, squeeze bottles from the Dyer's Guild and fill in those colors. And then the lotion, I'll run it under heat for a little bit. I don't want these ones fully saturated, but about 10 minutes under heat, and it'll give them really good, rich color. Um, I'm just working on his clothes right now. I'm not going to go into the wings fully because I need like the full image on my screen to be able to reference and get into the wings. So they're just really technical. So
So, Eagle's blocking your view.
yeah, it's all right. It's all good. It's worth it. Totally worth it.
So, what you're doing is lotion painting, which is the dye mixed with what lotion do you use?
I use the Equate brand
Okay.
cocoa butter from Cocoa Divine.
It's got to
It's a
smell good when
little
you're
little
doing it.
spendy, but oh yeah, it smells great. It's a little spendy compared to the Queen Helene, but I like the texture, and it does give off slightly different hues of color.
Really?
Yeah, I
I
just
thought,
never really liked Queen
uh,
Helene.
oh, I figured lotion was
Uh,
lotion. I didn't figure it would give, I guess it could, but
yeah, they're made out of all sorts of
yeah.
chemicals in there. It's not just cocoa butter. It has some cocoa butter.
So yeah, you're doing the lotion painting, and that's good for like solid colors. What other dye methods do you plan on doing with this disc?
Um, this one's going to be the lotion painting, and then I'll go over and do some shading because there's quite a bit of shading from the image, and that'll give us some depth in the overall aesthetic. Um, that's going to be like the little details that when you look at a piece of art, some art you kind of look at and your brain's like, okay, next piece. This is going to be one where it's like you look at and you're like, oh wait, hold on, I need to look at this a little bit longer.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
So you're doing stencil, clear glue bed, lotion, and the shading with. Do you use DA or acetone with your shading?
Uh, for my shading, I actually use this little guy, a little Patron bottle. I like it because it's like the old style, like quill and scroll, like quill and ink bottle. And that's actually isopropyl alcohol, because it's just a little more forgiving than denatured alcohol for shading. So I can really paint on thin layers and build up the shading versus just I feel like denatured alcohol kind of bullies it in there.
Nice. So you can see
So
in real
Eagle,
house and stuff. Go ahead.
yeah, Eagle, something that I have in mind, like disc golf is booming, right? We're growing. There's historic contracts being signed. Like it's insane right now to be a disc golfer. Like what a privilege, what an honor to be a disc golfer. I want to elevate disc golf dyers to to a new status. Like I see a lot of dyers out there and they're like paying pros to like be in their bag and like sponsoring pros and stuff. And like it's great for touring pros to have sponsors, but like I know what goes into art and like it kind of hurts my soul a little bit like when I hear someone's like, "Yeah, I'm sponsoring so and so." And I'm like, "Man, like how about we get like disc manufacturers to sponsor disc dyers or I don't know, something like that." Like I'm just pondering this idea. I don't know how feasible it is. I don't know what kind of insight you might have towards it, but it's something that won't get out of my headspace and I just got to talk about it. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I'd say it's a complicated equation because what what it comes down to, and there's multi levels, but a large percentage of it is like, are you going to bring value to said company? And
Yeah.
because they want to build their brand, they want to sell product, and that's the purest form of disc golf. Like a lot of people ask me, how do I get sponsored? What should I do? I was like, build your brand and become somebody that people want to root for, and that's when a company will want to support you because they're going to obtain value. And I would say, I'd argue that with disc dyers like MVP, for example, I don't know how many brands actually sell blank discs. It's probably few and far between. Is that right?
They're starting to catch on.
They're starting to catch on. But that said, like,
Uh,
if I'm just going to use MVP as an example, they sell blank discs, and I, from what I've seen, like their neutron plastic dyes really well. So
Truly.
when Jory's dying an MVP disc and it looks better than other brand, then he's technically bringing value to MVP. So like I could see what Jory's saying is like these dyers are. I don't know how much what Jory's reach on social media is, but I know it's significant, and he's shining light on their product. So I think that's a viable way to think, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking as well. So I'll just check my email after this and I'll sign the acceptance letter for the sponsorship. It's good, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Totally good. Totally get it. Yes, I think that's important. I appreciate you bringing up the added value. That's important piece of thought process for me to keep in mind. There are a few dyers out there with pretty solid followings in social media, and I think that's kind of like, sadly enough, where like a lot of the value comes from is like how many people you can get to follow you versus how good of an artist you are. Um, because like, man, there are some killer disc dyers out there, and they don't know how to manipulate the social media to get the followers that they
Right.
deserve because of how good their artwork is. But that's a whole nother story
Navigating the
for another
modern
time.
world.
I feel like with disc
Right.
golf and disc dyeing, it's kind of the same thing, where you need to obviously build your brand, and it's just more than disc golf. You have to do the business side of things. Same with disc dyeing. You have to promote your artwork, build that following. If you know, so I see a lot of parallels between disc golf and disc dyeing in that way.
I think it is like what Jory was saying earlier, the scaling aspect. That's the tough thing, because a
Yeah.
lot of it does come down to the monetary aspect, which has its pros and cons. But I feel like Jory's right, where some of that artist, like the core beauty, that artistic flair, it can that kind of gets consumed by it, which is unfortunate, because I mean we're living in a world where you need to make ends meet, especially like, Jory, are you doing this full time now?
I mean, for the winter months when I'm not doing excavating, I did this for
Gotcha.
full time for 2 years, and I built this school bus while I did it. Um, and that was a pretty lean 2 years for me. Like,
Mm,
it was not, I was not living on very much money at that time and hustling super hard. It was like 4 to 6 hours a day building a bus, and then 4 to 6 hours a day dyeing discs and raising a kid and just hustling, you know.
right.
Um, so it's a lot, man. I think like there's an interesting thing about like the starving artist narrative, but then also like, would we be as good of artists if we weren't starving?
Hmm.
Like, would
Right.
we have the same inspiration, the same drive if it came easily?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Like harsh situations create the most amazing types of people. I think throughout history, and a lot of the people we look up to today, they didn't have the most ideal situation, but they persevered through it. So it's a it's a tough balance. It's like there's a period where I genuinely believe it's perfect. You need to grind. You need to witness that, but at a certain point, you're like, I want it to pay off.
right, that's it. It's just like every once in a while you need to like, like I need a moment to coast. I need to not
Hmm.
worry about bills for a couple weeks or something like that. Like
Yeah.
I went on a trip to Belize, and when I got back, it was just a couple weeks ago. When I got back, I was just like, yeah, I want to do more of that. So I definitely am going to be hustling way harder to be able to go to Belize every year in the wintertime.
I think making disc dyeing a full time gig is pretty hard. I do feel like the market is really saturated with disc dyers, and you need some way to stand out or stick out from the rest. And um, I feel like there's different thoughts of how to make it. Some people mass produce a bunch of dye discs, so it's just basically quantity at a lower price. Um, and other dyers like Jory, I believe, do these amazing art pieces and sell it for what I think it is a fair price for a disc, which is more, and it's not everybody's cup of tea to pay that much for a disc, but yeah.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
well, just I was gonna say, just from this podcast and like bringing awareness to the whole dying community, because this is the first time I'm seeing this process, and like when Jory said like when I see someone's charging like extra money for a die, like up front, you're like, that's a disc. I could just go get another one. But when you look at him doing fine detail with all these colors, you're like, of course, it takes so much time. It's like, yeah, charge that much, charge more. So it's, I think bringing awareness and like people seeing all the work that goes into it, they're going to be much more inclined to be like, oh, damn, I want to support this because this is equivalent to buying a fine piece of art. It is equivalent to getting a tattoo. So like this is already like changed my whole paradigm on the subject, because yeah, I knew that it takes time to dye disc. It's a process, but like it's kind of like you have to see it to actually believe it, because we know a lot of things happen in the world and you kind of like, yeah, it sucks, but you turn a blind eye to it. But seeing it firsthand really is it's what it takes to truly change your perception of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Eagle, I appreciate you coming on and bringing some more awareness to disc dying. And that's one of the goals for the Dyers Guild, especially going on tour, is to bring awareness of disc dying for multiple reasons. One, to show, it is a process, but you can also dye a disc as well. Because I feel like a lot of disc dyers dye discs as a creative outlet because they don't have a creative outlet otherwise in their day-to-day life or their job. And disc dyeing has saved lives, believe it or not,
Mhm.
um, because of that creative outlet.
Definitely.
Disc
Definitely.
golf there's niches within niches that it's crazy. Like I'm in a very privileged position because I get people telling me like disc golf and like throwing my discs, like getting a disc like completely changes the trajectory of their lives. And it like makes me think, damn, that's really cool. And I'm really honored to be in that position. So like what it comes down to is just giving like positive value to people, whatever the modality might be.
Yeah.
Like if it's a dye disc, if it's saying hate at someone, or just like whatever it may be, if you're putting your best self out there in a creative way, then people are going to catch on and it's going to impact them in a positive way. Like positivity spreads more than you can think. And like even there's going to be a lot of mean people, they're going to drag you down, but that's not the majority. It's easy to think it is, but it really isn't. Most people
Yeah,
are very grateful and very very happy that to get like a beautiful dye disc in the mail, or to listen to this podcast, because when you're putting genuine like energy, positive energy towards something, people are going to pick it up no matter what it is.
Yes. Jory has a lot of positive energy.
lately I do for sure. Yeah, definitely. Dave's pretty good too. He gets stuff done. Dave is a doer.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but it's definitely worth it when people comment, like what you've been saying, Eagle, is like, disc dying has helped me, or you've helped me, you know, with anything. So eh, it's what keeps me going doing this, because it is a lot of freaking work.
Yeah, I think this year with the tour and the Dyers Guild going along, I think it's gonna be pretty amazing. We have a lot of there's just so much potential that's gonna get tapped into. It's that essence right there, like that joy, bringing that light to disc golf. Like some people, like we get so wrapped up in disc golf, it becomes our life, and then some people don't even realize they have an artistic bone in their body until they're like, oh, I can dye a disc, and there's so many of those people who haven't even found that yet. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what comes out of that fold. Like, yeah.
All right, Eagle. Well, it is 8 o'clock. I don't know if you wanted to wrap up.
Um, Didn't you mention something about reading a few comments off, or get some
Yeah.
live questions? Maybe do a round of that, and then I'll make my pizza.
So, for the listeners, if you have any questions, we can do a speed round. So type in those questions and we'll see what you got.
Is this live? This is live on YouTube, right?
It is live on YouTube. Let's see here.
Maybe I'll open up my phone and I can get some access to them as well.
Yes.
All right, so I don't know if you and Simon have any sort of like competitions back and forth, but let's just make him really jealous of the discs that are in your bag, okay?
Deal.
Deal.
That should be no problem. I opened up the chat. There's already some questions that I can't answer.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying them.
Be careful in there.
How far can you throw a gallon of glue with your left hand?
Probably not as far as you.
Come on, y'all. Come on, chat. Let's
Let's see.
get some real good questions, some quality content in here.
Austin Horner, who is my business partner, who's actually sitting behind me, asks, best die disc throw memory you have. So, what is the best throw that you had with the die disc?
Best. Oh boy, I have to go back in the archives of my brain to figure out what discs I threw on certain shots. Oh man, I mean I'm known to throw a lot of huck dies. Like I have a pretty good relationship with Jay up in Oregon. So I mean, pretty much anytime I'm playing disc golf, I'm throwing a die disc. And then historically, I've also thrown a lot of disc dies from Mike Kemp. He's my good friend up in Michigan. So he died he's been kind of like one of my go-to guys for a while. And used to throw like a steal your face with like a disc mania shield inside. I threw a lot of FD3s with that, so I threw a lot of good shots with those.
Mike Kemp's a good guy. I love
Yeah,
that
for
guy.
sure. Yeah, nothing's coming like directly in mind. I think the one shot I threw at Glass Blown Open 2018,
Oh yeah.
that sidearm,
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that disc, it was a PD2. It had a One Piece logo on it when I threw it in. So that was a pretty good memory, I'd say.
Nice.
Dude, that shot was so epic.
It came at like the
So
perfect
good.
time too.
Dude, you threw it so fast. Like that was the thing. I feel like it just had so much speed on it, and then it just stopped, and everyone's like, the camera like almost went too far. Oh,
All right.
so
Emily
That was a good
from
memory.
Disc by Emily asked, how can we get you to bleach your hair?
Oh boy. My girlfriend Ratana, she just bleached her hair and turned it purple. So she's offered, if I ever want to get my hair bleached, then she's the person who's going to do it. We'll see. We'll see. I love like colored hair, but I just don't like the process of it. Getting my hair just feels so like dry and fried, and that's the main reason why I haven't dyed it again.
She also asked, if I get dye in my beard, will you bleach your hair? Right. Dyes by Red asks, I saw a video of you flipping through your vinyl collection. What is your favorite record?
Like my favorite record of my collection or ever?
Let's say collection.
Probably right now, it's the latest record I bought because I had my record player in storage for a long time. Just brought it back out. Um, I bought a Spangle record, and there's nothing last, but nothing's lost. I'd say that's probably my favorite record right now.
Nice.
ooh, I like that.
Let's see. X to the Z, Xander says, Eagle, which pro disc golfer has the coolest looking disc? Well, obviously you now, but
It's gonna be me. I would say I would answer myself before that question. Um, I will say Chandler Kramer. He showed me a die, and do you know? I think his name's Sam Coakley.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
He died from another anime, Killua from Hunter x Hunter, one of the discs, and he always showed it off to me, and I'm like, that's a pretty sweet disc. And like he'd always give me updates on the disc. He's like, Eagle, it was a terrible day. I lost Killua in the pond. I'm gonna go get it. And then the next day he's like, I got it back. So his Killua, gosh, what disc was probably, I don't, it's like Warbird, I think, from when he was on Lone Star. That was a pretty sweet disc.
Nice. Let's see here. Justin Roy asks, "What do you envy that Simon can do that you can't?" No pun intended.
What do I envy? Um, gosh, that's a very broad question. I'd say I envy that he can play pool better than me. He's a good pool player.
Nice. Well, so I liked NBP before Simon came on, so I liked them before they were cool. And and I was joking that when you're going to be on, is like, well, Eagle, you're not Simon, so I guess you'll do.
I can't believe you ratted yourself out, Dave.
I know. Does Eagle have any die discs he wants to show off? Says Sid Vicious.
Right now, actually, I met up with a guy today. He gave me a little bit of a care package. Um, he's playing a local tags match. He hooked me up with 5 discs. His name's Doodle Discs, and I actually have them right here. He gave me these custom dyed discs as Eagle on what he was trying to do as the flat irons, which is super cool. He gave me 3 or 4 variations. That last one was a glitch. This one's a pyro. This one's a hex.
Nice.
Another hex. He gave me it's kind of more of a subtle die on the bottom. There's a cool little pattern on my my new Envy, and then he gave me a Lazadal as well. So shout
Nice.
out to Doodle Discs. I literally just got these today. I met up with them and gave me this care package.
Sweet.
So very cool.
Nice.
And then, I mean, I'm looking at my collections. Like, I had a lot of dyed discs with Discmania because it was with them for 9 years. But right now, I'm currently trying to re-up that collection. Oh, this is one that I need to shout out. Jack M. He does like
Yeah.
these amazing like spin dies or like animated dies. I don't know what the technical term is for it, but you
So
could spin
it's
it on like a tack or something, and
yeah.
then when you're looking at the camera, or it'll show like animation of like the Pokemon running around. So he's been super cool, and these are really sweet.
Yeah, they're called zoetropes, or there's another word for it that I cannot pronounce.
Phenolkistoscope
Yeah,
thingy?
something like that.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly.
Nice.
But yeah, super cool.
So, all right. Well, I think we'll let you go here and have your pizza. But Eagle, I greatly appreciate you being on here. It was definitely a pleasure and a first for us. So, yeah,
Absolutely, anytime. It was fun, and I'm glad I got to open my eyes and see the process, because it's something that I'm definitely going to be thinking a lot more of moving forward. And I'll I was already grateful to the people who died this, but now it just adds another layer to it.
awesome.
It's an honor to have this project for you. Gonna knock it out of the park, and yeah, man, just looking forward to seeing them. If they make your bag, they might make your wall. Either way, like I don't have expectations on people.
I selectively picked each disc that I sent you because I know that they're going straight in the bag, like all
Sweet.
4 of
Dude,
them.
that nitro feels really good in the hand.
It's overstable. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool, man.
I just know one thing. I am not throwing them anywhere close to the water.
I don't know, man. Just have faith in them, and if you lose them, just have to make you more.
I'll be pulling a Chandler Kramer. I'll be jumping in the lake.
Nice.
Nice.
All right,
Fantastic,
guys.
guys.
Yes. So until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later.